भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः परीक्ष्य लोकान् कर्मचितान् निर्वेदमायात् ब्राह्मणः नास्ति अकृतः ऋतेन तद्विज्ञानार्थं स गुरुमेव अभिगच्छेत् समित्पाणिः श्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम् People are raising their hands. Are you saying hi? Or is there a problem?
This is maybe. I mean, I think the volume is up. But
There was no microphone or something. Okay. All right. So if anyone waves to me, I don't know what it means. I just wave back.
I have to say something.
Okay. So we'll chant this in the tune that we have been chanting the other shlokas. But I just wanted us to get familiar with the words, so we chanted it one by one, because otherwise the collateral damage is to my ears. So for my sake, we first repeat it word by word, and then we try, Yeah, it's sounding very good. Everything is sounding very good. It's just that because of the gap, we have to honor the gap. We honor the gap in our understanding, and we have to say Gapaya Namaha. And I'm not talking of that, the multinational shop. Yeah, I'm not talking of that gap. I'm talking of the gap in the classes, the gap in our, understanding, the gap in our recall, etc. So, Tasmai Namaha. And so, now, Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmanah nasti akritah kritena Nirvedamayan. See, I told you there are gaps. Nirvedamayan nastya kritah kritena. Nirvedamayan nastya kritah kritena. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmanah. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmanah. Nirvedamayan nastya kritah kritena. Nirvedamayan nastya kritah kritena. तद्विज्ञानार्थं स गुरुमेवाभिगच्छेत् तद्विज्ञानार्थं स गुरुमेवाभिगच्छेत् समित्पाणिश्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम्
समित्पाणिश्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम्.
See, that wasn't so hard. See, yeah, we're getting back into the groove. Very groovy. Yes. So we saw the artha, the meaning of these words, line by line, word by word, with a lot of, contextual understanding of what is pariksha. Pariksha means, let us just translate this very briefly. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmanaha, the one who is endowed with shama dhamma, the one who is a tivra mumukshu, aka jignasu, meaning an intense, the one who is endowed with an intense desire for freedom and the teaching, the knowledge, is the one who understands first understands this through discrimination, and what is the viveka and vairagya are highlighted in this. And so what is the viveka? That I am done in by my doing. That is the viveka. And so therefore I need to take to take a step back from seeing take a step back from being mired in the doing and action and result of action as being product of action, factors involved in the action, result of action, leading to what? More action, more results. And what are those results? Unwanted results most of the time. And he's going to explain this in the Bhashya, we'll see it. And how this is this is an intense loop of samsara, which causes one to be loopy. Yeah. Loopaha asya asti iti loopy. So, totally crazy, because one is sort of addicted to action, because nobody wants to be a karta. Everybody wants to take early retirement. Nobody wants to be a karta. What do people want to be? Bhokta. So bhogaya karyam. So all the work is for the sake of bhoga. And then when the work is finished, the results that are spit out as a result of the work, what happens to those results? They are unwanted, because somehow something goes wrong, because there are so many hidden variables between action and results. Cup and slip. So many cup and lip, and the word is slip. So there are so many slips. So I cannot control action. I can control action, but there too some hidden variables come and take me out of the place of action. I'm not present at the right place at the right time, and I certainly cannot control the outcome of action. And if this is my only way to gain agency in this world of trials and tribulation, a jagat that is marked by sorrow and fear, then good luck, because it's never going to happen, because the action is flawed and the action is finite, because the person who is doing the action, the body mind sense complex with the ahankara, is also finite, and then the results of action even more finite, and finite begets more finite infinitely. This is one of the paradoxes of Vedanta. That's why we call it an infinite loop, and the person becomes loopy. Yes. And then the discrimination involves the understanding that it is not through the work that is done in the world. Through action there is no redemption through action. The redemption that I am seeking is outside of the purview of this action result dyad, this action result loop. Yeah. Because the problem is not centered on the action or the results thereof. The problem is centered in the same place where the I is currently located, and the word currently is underlined. Where the I is located, that's where the problem is located. It's not located in the jagat, It's not located in my agency, to influence the Jagat, to manipulate the Jagat, to give me some, what's its name? Dividends. Yeah, because all dividends end. That's why the last word in dividend is what? End. Yeah. First it divides and then it ends. That's why it's called dividend. Yeah. So, therefore what? So, therefore we have to be that this circumspection, this is called viveka. Seeing that I am getting on the wrong bus, the wrong train, because my destination is somewhere else and I am headed somewhere else, not once or twice, then it's a mistake, but all the time. So, and what is the conclusion? Akritah karmana akritam nasti. So, through the work that is done, through the action that I deploy, the infinite, which is really outside of the loop of this action and result, which is really centered on the I, because the problem is centered on the I, perhaps the solution is also centered on the I. This is called viveka. But the viveka is not enough. Why? There I need to take the next step. Because what's the point? If you know that you're getting on the wrong bus, the person is getting on the bus, do you know that this is not headed to Kumbakonam where you want to go? Yes, I know that. Even the board says it is, headed towards Trichinapalli. So then why are you getting on the bus? I know, but I'm still getting on the bus. No? Because when the circumspection, the discrimination comes, then it translates into certain steps that I'm going to take. And those steps are called Vairagya. And it's really a step back. Yeah, because I may not know what to do. But I need to stop participating in this game. This is a game. This is a samsaric, mayik game of finite word, ends and means. And the finite, and I am infinitely trying to produce the infinite through finite means. There is a big discrepancy between means and ends. So therefore I stop participating in the game, and that is described by this word nirvedam ayat, gains what is called nirveda, vairagya. Vairagya means it is normally translated as giving up. And this itself is a reason not to come to class. Oh my God, I have to give up. Let me have vairagya towards the class. Let me not enter the classroom. And then, but vairagya really, properly translated, is not about giving up. Even though it may entail certain changing the channel, if you're watching a boring program, or a horror movie, immediately that is going to entail in a sleepless night. Then what do? You have to change the channel quickly and immediately to some soothing something, some animals gamboling in the forest, what is that? What is that called? That National Planet something, National Geographic, yeah. And so you can just sort of see that, and that will help, that's a sleep aid. So you see all these things, you feel calm and you go to sleep. So you see, this is called the changing the channel. This is Vairagya. It's not that you have to, it's not about giving up, because this giving up is fraught with fear. That's why they say as soon as this verse is reached, the classroom becomes empty. Because we have given we have given up the class because this giving up is too much. So therefore, Pujya Swamiji and in the lineage we translate the quote-unquote giving up as objectivity. Giving up is not really giving up. Vairagya is not going to the forest with a stick and kamandalu in hand. Yeah. That is not Vairagya. That's not the correct, even though it involves giving up, but that giving up is really the prasada of seeing the misfit and the non-connection between the ends and the means. That is what it is. And so So the real Vairagya is the ability to change the channels, when it becomes abundantly clear that I have been engaging in a lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Often, I have been participating in, engaging in a fruitless endeavor by getting addicted to action and result of action, whereas that is a big spoof and that is a distraction from focusing on the truth of the eye, this gaping, yawning chasm that needs to be looked at, that needs to be understood. Therefore, I need help. All this is Vairagya. Viveka is understanding that the infinite which I am seeking is not a product. It is myself alone, and maybe even that doesn't come, but it's not a product. And the Viveka means that seeing the non-connection. Excuse me. Seeing the non-connection between what? Between action and result of action, and the result of action are finite, and seeing the non-connection between the finite result of actions which are a product and what I am seeking which is not a product. Because what I am seeking is timeless, what I am seeking is forever. Karma is not forever. Karma phala gets dissipated quicker than when you can say karma phala. And so therefore this is what is called Viveka, Vairagya, which are highlighted. So therefore the taking a step back from what I am doing is Vairagya. So giving up that particular pursuit because of that objectivity gained as a result of the Viveka is Vairagya. So from this objectivity I have to change the channel. Which channel to go to? Because now I am not watching horror movie, and there are thousands of channels. This is what it is. I don't know why people subscribe to this thing, and there are thousands of channels. When in my country, when I grew up, there was no television at all. It came very late. And then we had a small black and white box, the size of a slightly bigger than postage stamp, the size of one of the mobile phones today. And that the whole neighborhood would crowd and peer over each other's shoulders and try to look. This is what it was. And so now it's just so much, there is so many channels, and who has time to watch all of them? And then it's confusing because what to watch, because when there are so many choices, and the choices, please understand, are not really choices. They are choice abhasa of choice, a semblance. Abhasa means a something that is masquerading as a choice. Because what one wants is the ultimate choice. It's a choiceless choice. Because what I want through any of these channels, let's see, the channels may be different. One may have the, sports, which also sometimes is like a horror movie, the way the fellows are bashing each other up, And one may have some, stories, some fiction. One may have some news channels, and there are so many news channels. And one may have some other, other shows. Something called, what is this, these days they have, where the TV goes into people's homes, reality shows. How they actually live, lifestyles of rich and famous. So these are the shows, in general, these are the kinds of channels that are available. And then which one to watch? This is a quandary. So the point is to see that all of them are flawed, or because they are finite, they don't lead me to what I really want. And the point is also to see the commonality of these channels. What does the sports channel and the reality show have in common? They have something very important in common from the standpoint of the viewer. The viewer wants some time pass. Depending on the raga dvesha, they will either choose the reality show or the sports channel. But really speaking, what do they want? Some time pass, a feeling of being entertained, a feeling of forgetting one's own self. These are the things one is looking for. A feeling of happiness. Why one should feel happy after looking into other people's bedrooms and houses and looking at all the curtains in their house? I don't know. But people do feel very, oh, look at that house, look at the bedrooms, oh, look at this. Oh, that's a real painting of this real famous person, like this. Why should the person feel happy? Because there is this mistaken assumption that gaining all those things, or at least seeing what is to be gained, Ishtavastunaha darshanam. Yeah, this is Taittiriya Upanishad says that when you see something that is an object of raga, a certain low grade happiness is produced, which is called priya. Yeah. Then Ishtavastu praptihi. And so first you see the bedroom of the rich and famous person. Then, look. Otherwise, why should I feel happy? Because there is a part of me that's wanting that. Then you actually gain it. Somebody comes and says, for free, I will remodel your bedroom. You look like a cheap version of that, that person's, that fellow's, that famous celebrity's bedroom. And then what is that? Is Ishtavastu prapti, the prospect of gaining that. The smile becomes bigger. There is the low grade happiness climbs a notch further, and that is called modaha. Moda. Ishtavastu darshanam, Ishtavastu prapti, the prospect. Prapti here doesn't mean actual gaining. The prospect of gaining. Yeah. And then finally uniting, when you lie down on that bed, in that simulated celebrity bedroom. Pramoda. So, Priya, Moda, Pramoda. This is the gradations of this happiness, which is really little crumbs of that Ananda which you already are. So really speaking, who will settle for crumbs when you can have the real thing? What is the real thing? Not Coca-Cola. And so Ishtavastu darshanam, Ishtavastu, praptihi, and Ishtavastu upabhoga. Upabhoga means enjoying it, becoming one with this vastu is what is, indicated here. And this is what is called, Priya, Moda, Pramoda, little crumbs of contact happiness, when contacting something outside of you is able to give. And the contact happiness always ends at Pramoda. Yes. And what does Priya, Moda, Pramoda run on? It runs on that Ananda, that limitless happiness, which is yourself alone, which is not an experience, which doesn't need, which is always experienced, no matter what emotion you are experiencing, which is always you, which is hidden as it were because of this problem of not knowing the self and taking the self to be a beggar of happiness, a small beggar always knocking on the doors for begging some pieces of contact happiness. This is what is, this is the Viveka Vairagya. So therefore, the understanding is none of these channels will help. Yeah, it's not the question of switching the channel. Each channel, if you switch, it's that I see the commonality in all the pursuits. And so there is a radical change in the pursuit. And the pursuit takes on a new turn, which says here, Guru Meva Abhigachet. May one approach a teacher. Teacher here means someone who can help see, because it's very difficult, nearly impossible to see that the contact high is not what I'm after, because it's so, it appears so real. All the non-pursuits become pursuits, they appear so real. everything seems like it matters. Every feeling is, to be enshrined and, done archana before. And so therefore I need help. I need help, And so this help, I have to help myself with this help. And so therefore what? I have to help myself to see somebody who is an expert in this very thing. And then I have to approach them. Abhigachet. Guru meva, meaning this is the only way. And that is one of the reasons for the classroom to be vacated, because whenever we use in the modern contemporary, what's its name, world, when we use this is the only way, there is fear. There is this feeling of being surrounded by a choicelessness, feeling afraid, like, oh my God, why? How come they are saying it's the only way? I'll show that there is another way. Okay, sure. Yeah, they have to always remember it's the student that approaches the mentor. The mentor does not have a desire to approach the student or to have a following. If any mentor wants a following, that person is not meant to be a mentor in the traditional sense of in any of the ancient ways. In any of the ancient ways, whether Western or Eastern, this is something always the true mentor is not sitting, waiting for the students to come. If the student approaches, the mentor has the ability to teach and the mentor teaches. And if the student says that I don't want this knowledge, then the mentor will just, move on, or not teach. It doesn't, there is no pressure to teach. And that is what has to be understood here. And therefore the evakara, Bhashyakara talks about this eva, meaning that there is no other way. And what does it mean there is no other way to gain the infinite as oneself? And we have seen all this is just a revision. What does it mean there is no way to gain the truth of myself, that I am the source of all happiness? There is no other way than by approaching a teacher. What does that really mean? It means that the infinite, which is you, is not a product. It's not an object, it is the subject. And you have other ways, yes. You have pratyaksha, you have anumana, you have upamana, you have arthapatti, you have anupalabdhi. You have all these ways. What did I just say? Means of knowledge. These are the various means of knowledge. At one's behest, at one's disposal, these are the means of knowledge. I can see directly. What can you see? I can see about the self, because I am standing in front of the mirror. What do you see in front of the mirror? Body. I can see the self because I see the mind racing. What are you witnessing? The mind. I can see the self because I see that I don't see very clearly. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? The senses. Oh, I can infer the self. People in the West tried that. They were doing Shirshasana, putting everything upside down. Descartes, said, what did he say? I think, therefore I am. He put Descartes before Deshorse. That's why his name is Descartes. Yeah, see, Bhagavan has an irony, even in the way people are made. Yeah. And the same Bhagavan gives these ideas during the class. So this is upside down. I think, therefore I am. So supposing, is somebody approached this Descartes. Do you think it's going to rain today? And he says, I don't think so. That means in that time that he said, I don't think so, he ceases to exist because he doesn't think, therefore he is not. No. Thankfully, before he died, he reversed it. Yeah. Thank God. So Western scholars tried other things, because it's very difficult to intuit the self. What do you mean intuit the self? This is not something to be intuited. How can you intuit? The intuiter is the one who needs to be known. You cannot infer the self. The inferer, the nature of the inferer is what we need to understand. The self is not a product of inference, the self is not a product of simile. Atma is just like what? What are you going to say it's like? It's the only thing there is. And the self is not gained through the means of knowledge, finally called Anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi means what? You know, the cognition of absence. The self is not gained through the cognition of absence because the self is the only thing that is present, and because of its presence alone is the absences of other things in place and time is predicated. Yeah, all absences are recognizable because of my presence. This is just, the common sense buddhi. Actually, that's an oxymoron. Common sense, yeah. Why say common sense buddhi? That sense is equal to buddhi. This is common sense. So therefore, the I is not a product of the means of knowledge that is available to me. This leads some groups, spiritual groups, to say the I is beyond, cannot be known, cannot be inferred, cannot be talked about. Maunam, look at Dakshinamurti. And then they will proceed to talk about it for several years. You shut up, I will talk. That's all they are trying to say. This doesn't make any sense. So the I is, if it is beyond, if it cannot be known, then it's easy for us. It's definitely very easy for me if the I cannot be known. All we need is one final class to show the non-knowability of the I, and then everybody can go on their, sorry way, not merry way, sorry way, correct? But then if the I is unknowable, as certain spiritual groups say, then why is there a yearning, a built-in, uncultivated yearning to know the I, to be the I? Why is there a yearning? And this yearning is there in all people, regardless of whether they recognize themselves as a jignasu or not, as a mumukshu or not. Everybody is, that's why self-improvement classes are very popular, even in the West. DIY, yoga, self-improvement, how to be less reactive. Oh, so many people will sign up. I was at an ashram recently teaching in California, and there, they were saying that, next year they want to have a longer, longer period. And then they were asking some ideas, how to advertise this. So they can, we had quite a good attendance, but they wanted to bring in more people. And so how to advertise this better. So I just gave them the idea. Because there was a conference at the end of, the teaching, there was a conference. They called it Vedic Knowledge Forum. And that is the one they wanted to have more people. So I gave them the idea, say Vedic Knowledge Forum for stress reduction. And the whole room started to laugh because that is what sells, Yeah, that is what sells. So self-improvement, stress management, stress reduction, anger management, overcoming sorrow, on the relative level, how to not sweat the small stuff. There are books on these topics. I'm just reading you the list of what you will find in any bookshop, which are now few and far between. But if you go to the bookshop and the self-improvement area, that is what you will see. How to win friends, how to influence people, how to become famous. Why famous? Because I want to be happy. Why rich? Because I want to be happy. All these things. So there is if there is an inbuilt yearning for this, so it cannot be that the self is not to be known. It is unknowable. If it is unknowable, I will not say I know I am. The very fact, this is a contradiction. The very fact that I say I know I exist, and that knowledge of my existence is a self-revealing knowledge. It's a self-revealing I. That means what? It's not a product, of, no, let's start over. It's not a product that is hidden from me. In fact, it is not a product at all. It is myself alone, and that I is not hidden from me. And there is a yearning to be whole, there is a yearning to be full, there is a yearning to be completely happy at all times, and this yearning shows that it is completely untrue that the self is not comprehensible, not knowable, it is beyond, 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 beyond. It's beyond knowledge. No. Beyond understanding? No. Beyond comprehension? No. Beyond the ken of my means of knowledge that are available to me and operated by me? Yes. This is what I have to understand. This is part of the Viveka Vairagya package. This is what it is. This is what I have to comprehend. This is what I have to make completely clear to myself. And therefore what? Therefore, this is something we have to see very, very clearly. And that means that if I am helpless in knowing the self, I mean, I kind of know it, and I kind of know and yearn for this oneness, which I think I can get, and I seem to get for small periods of time, but it seems to be elusive. That's why I become an addict for the contact, high contact with objects, because that's the only way I seem to know how to produce this happiness, which appears and disappears, which seems to appear and disappear. But really speaking, I'm also in touch with those times and spaces in my own, in my own self, where even without fulfilling a desire, I am at peace. I am happy. Even when I sleep, I'm happy. There's no problem. And so this discrepancy, this vyabhichara, leads me to see this, that I need help. Because it's not that it's beyond comprehension. It is beyond my comprehension right now with the limited tools in the forms of the pramanas, the means of knowledge that are given to me. So it's not beyond knowledge. It's not beyond comprehension. And so therefore what? Therefore, the guru comes into the picture, because the guru is not giving some new knowledge. That's why the word eva, only through the teacher and the teaching, this knowledge is made real, is understood properly, is given. Because it's not that the guru has a secret basket of knowledge that is going to be opened and shown. Here, look, there's one, African tribe. There's an African indigenous group that they have this initiation ceremony, where it's not into sannyasa, but it's into some kind of priests. They become the priests of that particular spiritual tradition. They become the carriers of that spiritual tradition. So part of the initiation involves, taking all the initiates into a hut with the teacher, who is, after a certain period of study, they are deemed to be ready for this initiation. So all the initiates are taken into this hut, and then there is a box or some kind of a hidden thing, a deity that is only shown to them at the time of initiation. So the guru carries that basket with that deity. It's all hidden. You only see the basket. Everybody goes gaga with this basket. They all worship the basket because there is this hidden deity in it. And it is shown, it is revealed, only to the initiates. And then it is boxed up and it is carried out. And that concludes the initiation ceremony. It is in the African, in the Nigerian ancient lineage. Now, this is not our tradition. I bring this very clearly because there is something to see, because they are connecting to Bhagavan in a certain way, and it's a particular darshan. So Guru is not giving Atma darshan. It's not that something that is special knowledge, the Atma knowledge is being revealed, or Atma knowledge is being produced or given a special knowledge in a special basket, which is part of the Guru's repertoire, is going to be unleashed upon you. No. What is happening here? That which is hidden from you for want of means of knowledge is being revealed. That which is hidden from you by the eclipse of ajnana is being revealed. And what does the Guru do? Remove the eclipse. Remove the eclipse. It's not a special darshan. Atma darshanam means what? I'm always there. I know I am. That is very clear. What I am, don't ask that question, because if you ask me who are you, what are you, then my question to you will be how much time you got to listen to my woes. Because this is how I define myself. I don't have enough. I am not enough. I don't know this. I don't know Sanskrit. I don't know Vedanta. I'm not a good student. I'm not a good teacher. I'm not a good this. I'm not a good human being. I wish I had more of this. I wish I had more memory. I wish I had more time. I wish I had more resources. I wish I had this. I wish I had this. I wish. So because of all these wishes, the person's, understanding of oneself is wishy-washy. That's why the word wishy-washy has come. Yeah. This wishy has to be washed. Yeah. All these wishes, all these wish-based I is a very sad, mad I. That one is always, one is, at the helm of discontent. All that rises is a tsunami of discontent, self-discontent. And so what does the Guru do? The Guru just removes that discontent. Doesn't remove the discontent, removes that covering of that self as though hidden, as though covering is removed. And what is that covering? Atma Ajnana. And when the covering is removed, the discontent which is sitting on the covering falls away. Yeah. Like if you put a lid on the pot and on top of the pot you put all kinds of garbage. When the lid is removed, the garbage is also removed. And the handling of the pramana on part of the Guru assures that the lid is so beautifully removed that none of the garbage on top of the lid falls in the pot. That's all it is. Yeah. This is what the whole thing is. That's why the word eva is justified. Eva here means only through this way is the I that is of self-revealed I, the self-revealing I, the I that is already content, already rescued, already quote-unquote saved, already full, already happy, already ananta, already limitless, is understood because one needs help. And what kind of a Guru? The Guru who has listened properly to his Guru, her Guru, because this is through Shravana. This is through the listening. Because if I start reading books, I come in my own way. Yeah. That is why, so many times people come to class and they start reading a book on Mundaka Upanishad. While the teacher is teaching Mundaka Upanishad, they are going like this. The whole time. Not when we are reading Bhasha. Reading Bhasha, yes, you also have to read. But, yeah. This is what sometimes people do. Then why you come here? Go sit at home, aram say and read. Not sit in front of the teacher and read. Yeah. That's why we have online classes. Thankfully, I am not privy to anything that you may be doing. Yeah. But if someone comes and sits in front of me and reads the very book that I am teaching, then I think I am justified in asking, either go home and read or come without the book. That's all there is. There's nothing more to it. So therefore, this whole thing, it's all a paradox. Everything. That's why the teacher's, entry is needed, because everything is a paradox. Starting with the teacher herself is a big paradox. Who is this teacher? Teacher. Guru, heavy, and heavy, and Guru, Gukarah, Andhakaro, Vai, Rukarah, Tan, Nivartakah, Andhakara Nivartakatvat, Guruhu, Iti Abhidhiyate, Guru, all these things. And then it has, 24 declension. Guru, Guravaha, Guru, so many Gurus, and Guruna, Gurubhyam, Gurubhihi, Gurave, Gurubhyam, Gurubhyah, Guroho, Gurubhyam, Gurubhyah, Guroho, Guruvoho, Guruna, Gurau, Guruvoho, Gurushu, Guru, Guru, Guravaha. This is so many gurus, so many forms of this guru. And who is this guru? The guru is a big joke. Yeah, guru is a big ha. Why? Because that guru is really you. And the Shishya is another ha. Shishya, oh, I don't know anything. I have to approach Guru. I have to do this. And I have to see the Guru as this all exalted things. I have to compose verses on the Guru. And people do this. Nothing wrong. But what I'm saying is, from our standpoint, from our understanding, both are what? Same Atma. All light, all lightened, all enlightened, ever enlightened Atma. One is morphed as the Guru, one is morphed as the Shishya, and the gap in between the Guru Shishya is also Atma. And then what? That gap is that as though gap is as though bridged by the as though teaching. Yeah. And the Shishya says, Dhanyoham, Kritakrityoham, Tashto moha, Smritir labdha. All the moha is destroyed. Arjuna says this. Smritihi labdha. I have gained, I have regained my senses. Yeah, I have understood what is what. Karishye vachanam tava. I will do, in the future, as you say. No more there is doubt in my mind. And so this is all just a play. It is a play acting, that is whose act, act 1, act 2, act 3 are all unfolding on this canvas of this Atma that is ever free from ignorance. That is why the teaching works. It's a paradox. Yeah. Vedanta is full of paradoxes, using words to describe that wordless truth of the self. That's why the words are needed. You cannot say the words are not needed, I'll just sit quietly. Sit quietly means what? Sit in the ignorance quietly, that's all. We are not afraid of words. We are not afraid of the silence between the words. We are not afraid of the silence, which the words indicate. This is another paradox. The words indicate and take one to that silence, which is a silence that is not opposed to sound. Yeah. Because it's also wrong to say Atma is silence. Then what is sound? Anatma? Each time you make a sound, you are away from Atma. So everyone has to creep along quietly all the time because Atma can be displaced by sound. What is that limitless Atma? How can it be limitless if it is displaced by sound? Sound cannot displace it, silence cannot affirm it, sound cannot deny it. That is what we have to see. And in order to see this, there are all these beautiful paradoxes that keep one always doing left, right, marching in place. This is the beauty of the teaching. And then what? Shishyacharyataya tathaiva pitruputra dhyatmana bhedatah. Where is this occurring? Abba. Oh, I'm happy I came back. Dakshinamurti Stotram. Yeah. Shishya acharyataya tatha eva pitru putra atma iti bhedatah. All these divisions, Shishya, Acharya, book, Pita. Pita means what? Father. Putra, child. All these divisions. Father, child, mother, son, daughter, brother, sister, teacher. And then what? All that are swallowed up as though in the same way as the dream is swallowed up upon waking. Similarly, these distinctions are swallowed up because they don't really exist. They are a spoof, they are a product, a projection of my ignorance. So they are also all swallowed up when I wake up to this knowledge. Yeah. Maya paribhramitah purushah. This individual, completely engulfed by Maya, is woken up. All that the Guru is an alarm clock. That's all it is. That's all it is. Guru's role is to ring. Yeah. Ring in the Tattvamasi. Yeah. Nowadays you have melodious alarm clocks. This is a Mahavakya alarm clock. So wake up call. That's all it is. Yeah. And the Shishya who is not ready, shuts up the Guru. Keeps pressing the snooze button and goes to sleep. Doesn't wake up. The Guru, in his kindness, doesn't give up after 5 minutes. Starts off again. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. And then what does the Shishya do? Shut up! He rolls over and turns over and go to sleep. And just like in the modern world, the alarm clocks have evolved. There are newer alarm clocks, and the newest one you have to hear this. I've told this in another class, but why not again? So the newest one is that which is designed and guaranteed to wake you up. You know what it does? Yeah, when it starts to ring, it runs away. It is programmed to run away from you. So the person is groping, especially if you need glasses. You don't have your glasses, you don't have anything, it's all dark, everything is dark. Atma, Jnanam, everything. So then you're just groping, where is it? And it's getting louder and going farther away. And then it's getting louder and going further away. And then it has intelligent sensors to make it go outside of the room or some far away corner in the room, and it's so yelling annoyingly that you are forced to wake up and look for it and put on the light and then look for it. It will be under the dresser, or it will be in the hallway, or it will be in the living room, or it has gone down the stairs and found its way into the doorway. Doesn't matter where it is. So you have to follow it, Yeah, just like you follow the Guru. You have to follow this ring, and then you curse the alarm clock. Sometimes people curse the Guru also. And then what, People don't curse, the ajnanam, the anyatha, that ajnanam curses. And then what? And then you finally attend to this noise. And then after that, the bed is so far away, then you say, okay, I'm already up, might as well get into the shower and start the day. The Guru is like that. An alarm clock that says time for this ajnanam, this akala nidra suptaha purushaha. So this individual who is sleeping, who is sleeping the sleep of ignorance for a long time. Hello, Miss, it is time to wake up. It is time to wake up and, and see the truth of yourself. And usually the sleeping person is also sometimes in the middle of a dream. It's hard to tell. What dream? Nightmarish samsara. That's all it is. That's why the Guru is needed, much like the alarm clock is needed to wake you up. And just like the alarm clocks, the Gurus are also getting more and more crafty along with the times. Yes, you have to. Yeah. In the olden days, few mukshus, jignasus would come, and the teaching was all in Sanskrit, and everything was in Sanskrit, and then the bhashya was in Sanskrit. Everything was was like this, and there were certain traditional ways followed, and there were certain rules, and how to be and what to do, etc. And now what? Now the bhashya is in English. Yeah, even without knowing one word of Sanskrit, one can enjoy the teachings, thanks to Pujya Swamiji making it all easy for us to learn and to teach. And thanks to the glory of this lineage, we can enjoy this is unheard of, enjoying the bhashya in English. Sitting in the Western world, you're getting the traditional teaching in the traditional way. And also online, now we have, the Guru has become craftier still, and then beams into your home and beams into your room beamingly, and then what? And then you know, and it's just like the alarm clock. You can't get rid of the guru, because if once you turn on the computer, the teaching is there, teacher is there, and it's all easy. You don't even have to travel. You don't have to. I mean, in the olden days, you had to give up family. You had to give up everything you did, and then you heard that, like Adi Shankara, he was 8 years old, and he heard that there is some guru somewhere. He didn't even know how to go, and he went from Kerala all the way. He had a North Indian guru, yeah. And Govindapada. Govindapada was a North Indian man from Madhya Pradesh. He was a North Indian guru. He walked from Kerala with all the snakes, the tigers, the elephant, circumambulating them. This little boy, in search of the guru, walked from the heart of Kerala, which is in South India, all the way to actually Chhattisgarh or somewhere there. Now the Madhya Pradesh has been split into another state, because it was very big, and now they have split it into Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. So somewhere in that border, that is where the ashram was. And he walked in there. In the olden days you had to do that. Now you don't have to do that. So now the teaching has become very savvy and contemporary, and there is no way to escape it. Guru meva abhigacche. And then what? Samit panihi. Samit panihi means, twigs in hand. Twigs not to beat yourself or beat the guru up, but twigs, just signify service, because in the olden days some of the gurus were grihasthas. Being grihasthas, they had to do homa every day, and so twigs meant, it was a big job to gather the twigs. Twigs means I am ready for seva. See, nobody told the student to bring the twigs. This is what is seva. You don't wait till you are asked. You don't wait till you are told. If you are told, it's not really seva. You do what is required. You see what is needed. You do what is required. And last time I explained the connection between service and learning. In fact, the word is the same. Desire to learn and seva. In Sanskrit, there is one word. What is that? Shushrusha. Shushrusha means shrotum ichha. But here it's shrotum ichha, desire to hear. But how is that service? Because the desire to, when I am engaged in service, I am around the ashram, around the teacher more. So I overcome my own fear to be around the teacher and the teachings by engaging in what is needed to be done. I don't wait to be told. I just look around. It's very easy. Oh, something needs to be done. Pick up this, do that. Very easy. And also the service is to make a second reason for the service is to make sure that the knowledge continues. Because if some of the burden from reproducing the life of the teacher and the ashram is lifted, then it is easy for the teaching to flow. The teaching will not stop. I want the teaching to continue. And the third, final, and the important reason for the service is what? Is to ensure that, my ragadveshas calm down. Because when I am engaged in service, then what happens is that, I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm doing what needs to be done. And therefore the ragadveshas collapse. Yeah. So these are the ways in which, this is how the teaching is gained. So it's just like a 3-act play. Act 1, the lost student finding that one is lost. Because if one is lost and one doesn't know one is lost, no problem. Correct? Yeah. If you're lost and you don't know you're lost, no problem. But Act 1 shows in this play, this whole play of ignorance and the journey from ignorance to knowledge in 3 acts. A play in 3 acts. It's really a play. All happening on the stage of that Atma which is not ignorant, which is never ignorant, which is not cut up into student, teacher, which is not cut up into sound and silence, which is not opposed to anything, which is all accommodating, which is all that is, which happens to be limitless. So Act 1, the discovery of the lost, limited, frightened person. Act 2, the seeking for the teacher. Act 3, the teaching and the quote-unquote enlightenment. All these are what? Just a spoof, just a paradox. And because they appear to be real, I have to, at the level of the empirical reality, address it and help myself. So then what is the Guru? The Guru is Shrotriya and Brahmanistha. Shrotriya, well taught to be able to handle the Pramanas. Brahmanistha means, only doesn't have. Adi Shankara describes it as the one who is not into karma, the one who is doing only things that are connected to teaching and study. Those are the only minimal occupations in the life of oneself. So this is what is the verse. We have seen the meaning, but I thought it's important to revise it. We'll take a small break, 15 minutes, and then come back and see the Bhashya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Ramagiri Aruna Asay.
Yeah, we will see shortly.